Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Bree, and today I'm talking about childhood obsessions I just lost interest in. So obviously when you're a kid, you're just trying to figure life out and you're just enjoying things. So I had a lot of things that I was really into as a kid that I thought I was actually going to grow up and do something with. And then I didn't. So let's go ahead and go through the list. First of all is big trucks. When I was a kid, I loved the fucking big trucks, the Mack trucks, the fucking big semis, the 18 wheelers. My favorite Transformer as a kid was Optimus Prime. I got him when I was 5 years old. I loved the movie Maximum Overdrive because it had big trucks all over the damn place. My uncles were truck drivers, you know, and I even went to trucking school when I was in my 20s. I wanted to be a truck driver. I was obsessed with big trucks for the longest time, and then over time, I just sort of lost interest. I still think they're cool. Don't get me wrong. I still think they're cool, just not like I used to. Next up is sharks. Oh, when I was a kid, I was so obsessed with sharks. I'm going to tell a story from my childhood. When I was 5 years old, I was so obsessed with sharks. My sister had this shark poster hanging on her wall. And I asked her if I could look at it, and she's like, "No, you can't look at it." And she was being kind of a bitch. And so I climbed on top of it was hanging above her dresser. And so I climbed on top of the bed. And this was a metal frame bed. This was an old school metal frame bed. Big, giant hunk of metal. And I was trying to climb on top of the dresser to get up to see the poster because she wouldn't let me see it. I slipped and I fell and I cracked my head open and I had to go have surgery on the back of my head. I had to have stitches and I was like stuck in a bed for days. But I was so obsessed with sharks. I loved Shark Week growing up. I mean, Jaws was one of my favorite movies. I love shark movies. I just watched The Meg 2. It was fucking 2 thumbs up. I loved it. I'm gonna do a review of it for Horror Trends, but spoilers. I loved it. I loved The Meg. I wrote a positive review for The Meg for the newspaper I worked at the time. I just loved sharks so much growing up. Now today as an adult, I'm not like as interested in sharks as I used to be, but I still think they're cool. Next up is dinosaurs. What kid doesn't love dinosaurs? When I was a kid, I was so obsessed with dinosaurs, especially Land Before Time. I used to go out in the yard and pretend I was a dinosaur, and I would actually eat grass and leaves from the trees because I wanted to be a long neck. I just loved dinosaurs so much. I couldn't believe when Jurassic Park came out. I was blown away. I was like, holy shit, this is the coolest fucking thing ever. And then over time, I just lost interest in dinosaurs. Now, I still think they're cool, but I'm not as into them as I used to read books on dinosaurs when I was a kid. Now I'm just like, I don't even keep up anymore. I still call it Brontosaurus, even though I know better. To me, I always knew it as Brontosaurus. Next up is Nintendo. I've already done a video on why I soured on Nintendo. I don't have to beat a dead horse, but I was obsessed with Nintendo when I was a kid. So much so that I have literally owned every game console they've ever produced. One exception. It's not technically a console, but I've never owned a Virtual Boy, and I probably never will. But as time went on, I was always more into Sega than Nintendo, so I slowly got into Sega. And then as time progressed even further, I realized that I was buying Nintendo systems, but I wanted games that were on PlayStation systems. And so I stopped buying Nintendo and I started buying PlayStation. Next up is fixing electronics. When I was a kid, I loved fixing electronics. Broken VCR, I'd take it apart, find out what was wrong with it, put it back together. I'd fix computers. I fixed my own iPods in the past. I got a record player out of the dumpster that was just trash, and I found parts for it. Just going to thrift stores and just buying other electronic things, and I put it back together, and I built a 2 turntable DJ setup out of it. Used to love fixing electronics, but now I'm not interested. I don't even want to do anything with it. This one will probably surprise you a little bit, but when I was a kid, I was obsessed with cowboys. I wanted to grow up and be a cowboy or a cowgirl. I went to the rodeo. I went to demolition derbies. I just was obsessed with cowboys. I wanted to grow up and move to Texas and live on a ranch. My dream, my actual dream is to go to Montana and live on a bison farm. I would die to do that. I still want to be a cowgirl. I want to own a bison farm. I would love for that to become a reality. And then last but not least is drawing. When I was a kid, I used to doodle all the time. I used to love drawing. Now, a little story, a little background story. I have some kind of problem with my hands, and the doctors can never figure it out. So I don't have fine motor skill. I don't have developed fine motor skills, and I don't have good hand-eye coordination. So I used to go to physical therapy all the time as a kid, and they actually prescribed me, they gave me a doctor's note telling my parents to let me play more video games because that would help me develop my fine motor skills. So I actually had a doctor's note to play video games, and I would draw a lot because I love drawing. But over time, it just became obvious to me that I was never going to get any better at it. My drawings sucked. They were just scribbles, and I was never going to get good at it. So I just stopped because I just decided, you know what? I'm not capable of drawing. It's just not a skill I possess. So those are some of my childhood obsessions. Leave down a comment down below. Let me know what were some of the things you loved as a kid that you don't love anymore. Stay cool.